Hi, this is Tyler Dawn Rosenquist again from theancientbridge.com. And as I promised, I'm starting the teaching series tonight on how to study, something that's incredibly important. Everyone deserves to know how to study. So you've listened to a teaching and you want to study the matter out for yourself, which is great. And I say great because, most people will assume that by watching that video, they actually have studied for themselves. But really, they just listen to someone who claims to have studied. Now, studying means going to the source and getting as close to the primary source material as possible. Now, if you want to study the wording of Scripture, that means actually learning Greek and Hebrew, and not only learning those languages, but finding out what those words meant at the time, and the intricacies of grammar and such, and I'm really bad at that. If you want to know context, it means diving into archaeology books written by actual archaeologists and articles written by scholars in the field who are as close to the original material as possible. Now, the original material is called a primary source, things like ancient cuneiform tablets, hieroglyphics, and inscriptions. The Diary of Anne Frank would be considered an excellent primary source, for instance, of what it was like to be a Jew in hiding during the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands. As she never thought anyone would read it, it's going to be an uncontaminated, pure, and honest source of first-hand information. Now, primary sources boil down to just that, first-hand information. Josephus is a primary source as well from 1st century to Second Temple times. The Amarna letters, the Mari letters, the Code of Hammurabi, all primary sources of the biblical Near East. Then we have our secondary sources, which are by people who wrote about the primary source materials, and secondary sources are sadly not all created equal. Some people will look at the same data and come up with completely different takes on it. Some people won't look at the data at all, and they'll write about it anyway as though they did. So we need to not only look at the book, but we need to look at whose writings and information that book is based on. Right now in my library, I have 2 types of books on ancient Near Eastern and 1st century mythology. The first type is written by archaeologists, Egyptologists, Assyriologists, experts on ancient Rome and Greece, and the second type are written by people who read books by people who were not archaeologists, but who claim to have archaeological knowledge. In fact, there are more of the second type of book floating around than the first, and they're more popular. Now, most people who claim to have studied a topic are not even getting remotely close to their primary source material and are using books that have long since been debunked, not only by the archaeology of the past 150 years, but these people misrepresent their own footnote material. Now, why is this? It's because most books written about pseudo-archaeology are filled with agendas. They aren't interested in reporting the facts, but with tearing down something they don't like or promoting something they do like. Oftentimes they're filled with half-truths and even outright lies in the promotion of agenda. Now, that's why we have to be really careful about what we study. As I've said before, not all books are created equal. In my temple studies, for instance, there are a lot of books out there by theorists who aren't even doing the actual digging or haven't even gone to Israel. But I read the books and articles by the people who are doing the excavations, as well as the writings of Josephus, who actually lived in Second Temple times and was a first-hand witness. This, of course, in addition to the scriptures and other Jewish writings. Now, study comes down to finding credible sources. And when we talk about Bible study, credibility is everything. There are a lot of folks who have built entire ministries based on the writings of theorists and people with outright agendas. Because theorists talk a good game, and they're incredibly interesting, and if they're speaking against something we hate, then our defenses against deception are already lowered. But this is the Bible we are talking about, and no matter how much we like a theory, it has to line up with what's actually true. Primary sources will better tell us what is and often what is not true, but even primary sources don't always tell the truth. Sometimes they just tell us what was believed at the time or what someone wanted other people to believe. What we cannot do is promote theories as truth if there is no substantiating evidence. So when you're watching teachings, pay attention, because people will pass on theories as though they are proven facts. The only way to know for sure is to get as close to the primary source material as possible, and the worst way of doing that is by going on the internet, because you will find a page verifying every lie under the sun. Always remember that when most people are on the attack, or when they are trying to bolster their own positions, they will willingly compromise the truth, and especially people who can make money or draw an audience by doing so. And the worst thing is that they often genuinely believe they're serving God in doing this. The best way to research something is by simply choosing a topic to study and then reading multiple books and scholarly articles about it. Ones who are written by people who are objective, which, often means reading things written by non-believers who are only interested in reporting facts and not in promoting their own religious beliefs. Now, as we go through this, I am going to introduce you to some teachers who do this, and they share their sources. They will not teach something they haven't verified. As I mentioned before, Rico Cortez, Wisdom and Torah Ministries, Lee Miller, House of David Fellowship in Richmond, Virginia, and Joseph Good, my temple teacher of Hatikva Ministries. I'm going to show you by how they teach, how you can find out who the good sources are. I'm not going to just tell you how to do these things and then not equip you. I'm incredibly, that's all I want to do. I want to equip you not to become like me, not to become like Rico or Lee or Joseph. Absolutely not. I want to equip you to become like Yeshua, and the only way I can really do that is by trying to protect you from not knowing what to believe. Because there are so many hinky teachers out there, or maybe both. There are so many teachings out there that are not grounded in truth, but it's hard to know what they are. So I want to teach you how to take responsibility for your own education. I want to make you as deception-proof as possible, because we've all fallen for lies. Not only did our ancestors, like Jeremiah said, not only did our fathers inherit lies, a lot of times in getting rid of those lies, we willingly took on some new ones, thinking they were true because everyone was saying it. Anyway, next week I'm going to talk to you about when and how to question a teacher, about their sources, and even how much you can justify questioning them based on your current level of knowledge. It doesn't do any good for someone who doesn't know how to add and subtract to watch an algebra teaching and then demand answers from the teacher. Yet it's a responsibility of the teacher to answer questions, but we can't build a complete foundation for someone who has listened to an advanced teaching before they knew the basics. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of the teacher's time. It's unreasonable. So, I hope you aren't discouraged. And I know it sounds daunting, but it really isn't that bad. And we're going to start small, but we're going to get there. And you can do this. Little by little, you can take responsibility for your own education. And what I want for you is when you're in a conversation and you say, I've studied this, I want it to be true. I want you to have studied it. And I want you to know if the person who is saying, I've studied this for 20 years, I want you to be able to find out if they're telling the truth. People say they studied all the time just in order to shut everyone else down and to get everyone to listen. But all we can do is study for ourselves. All we can do is try to become deception-proof. And that's what I want for you. I want to equip you so that No one can deceive you unless you want to be deceived. Now, the sun is down, and I think it's time to head inside. Anyway, I know this is only 10-minute teaching. You may have wanted me to teach more, but we have to take this slow, and I want you to digest what I'm telling you. The next teaching will be next week. I'm going to do 2 teachings a week, one on studying or on context or whatever I'm doing. And on Fridays, I'm going to come out on teachings about the fruit of the Spirit, which is another one of my passions. So little by little, we're going to get farther along and get there together. Anyway, good night, and thank you so much for giving me your time. You have a great one. Bye now.